If you're looking for more intentional ways of expressing your personal style and your values through the way you dress, then you clicked on the right video. Hey, my name is Sarah, and I'm filming this video in hopes of normalizing sustainability when we talk about fashion. I'm sure most of you out there are tired of seeing the normalization of fast fashion companies and people promoting fast fashion all over social media. Every year, fast fashion companies release dozens of new collections, even though traditional fashion calendars only consist of fall and spring collections. I love finding timeless and really versatile pieces, and so I'll be reviewing two dresses. The most sustainable option we have is to use what we already have, upcycle existing things, go thrifting. There's nothing wrong with trying to update your wardrobe as long as these pieces that we're purchasing are from brands that have high standards. Let's jump right into the video. For me, sustainability is not a buzzword but has real impacts on human life and our earth. I often use the example of Bangladesh as I have Bengali heritage, and I've seen the levels of poverty but also the country's recent transition to becoming a middle-income country. This means that its GDP is higher, largely due to the explosive growth of the garment industry, which accounts for 80% of the country's exports. 80% of garment workers in Bangladesh are women. Every piece of clothing is carefully made by someone's hands, usually by a girl around my age who's not paid a living wage and often has to work in unsafe buildings and working conditions. My question is, what really has changed since the industrial homicide that took more than 1,000 workers and another 2,500 workers during the collapse of the Rana plaza in 2013? It's obvious that the fashion industry is going through a sustainability crisis that's built on worker exploitation, destroying our planet in a really rapid production process that designers and increasingly AI appropriate styles to rapidly sell on the market. But Bangladesh's textile history doesn't start here. Its textile history is marked with beauty, abundance, and sustainability. Prior to the colonization of the Indian subcontinent, the Bengal region, now known as Bangladesh, practically clothed the world, using a rare cotton plant called Futhi karpas that is found in the banks of the Meghna River. The muslin was so refined that 2 full-length saris could easily pass through a small ring, and it even earned the name as woven air by some poets. This Bengal muslin was traded across the globe for thousands of years. Places like Indonesia would only trade in exchange for Bengal muslin. Weavers and artisans enjoyed lots of prosperity and protection, but with the colonization of the Indian subcontinent, the East India Company gained growing parts of my ancestors' lands. And the East India Company acquired legal and political control over laborers, which essentially reduced their bargaining power. So for example, the company made weavers produce more muslin textiles at a cheaper price and then prohibited workers from selling to other markets. When they retaliated or didn't agree with these rules set by the EIC, it's documented that British colonial administrators tried to cut off the thumbs of weavers to prevent them from weaving these muslin textiles. In 1770, the Bengal famine took the lives of more than 10 million people. I'd like to take a moment of silence just to reflect on this pain and historical violence inflicted on my ancestors and many other people. This famine consisted of more than a third of the population at the time. At this time, British colonial administrators exported a million tons of food from Bengal during the famine to feed their troops, all while exploiting every last bit of wealth they could exploit in the form of tax or rent from the indigenous peoples who've lived there for millennia. Post-famine, the number of weavers diminished significantly to almost half, and many artisans who did survive left their looms to grow food. This deadly famine happened in the context of a really exploitative land revenue taxation system that created deep-seated inequalities and widespread impoverishment. The final blow to Bengal's muslin industry was when it was met with the competition of industrial capital in Europe. Between the 1700s and 1900s, Britain plundered trillions of dollars worth of wealth from the Indian subcontinent. This wealth was used to build domestic infrastructure in England and also fuel the Industrial Revolution happening in Western Europe at the time. And part of the Industrial Revolution was mass production of lots of different things, including textiles. And because of this explosive growth in textile production in Britain, Bengal's textile industry could no longer compete, and the craft then became lost. In recent years, there have been efforts to revive Bengal muslin, but not at the level of sophistication documented in history. I believe that the collapse of the Bengal muslin industry is not as different as the collapse of the Rana plaza. Both incidents are a result of putting profit over people and planet. For example, union suppression of garment workers in Bangladesh today reflect the same colonial tactics that eliminated the bargaining power of muslin textile workers in Bengal. The cracks identified on the walls and ceiling of Rana Plaza building also reveal the fractures of a really unsustainable economic system. So a just transition is far more than just electrifying factories and equipment in buildings or using recycled plastics for clothing. It goes beyond the activist strategy of quitting fast fashion because it's bad for the environment. We need to talk about the industry in Bangladesh because for a lot of women, it's a really important source of income for their independence. We need to move beyond this Western condescension of thinking that we know best for these other countries and working collaboratively with them on campaigns and protests with working class movements and resistance, because these people who are on the front line and who are most vulnerable know best their needs, and they know far better than any of us in the West will. I've really been reflecting on the revival of Bengal muslin, and I think Bangladesh's textile story certainly doesn't end with fast fashion. Truly, the revival of muslin and its traditional handcraft techniques can mean developing a greater sense of appreciation for sustainable and ethically produced clothing. Please feel free to check out the description for more information and resources to help guide your sustainability journey.